Today we're going to talk about Moulton Pack Horse Bridge. It's a medieval bridge across the River Kennet in Cambridge. And it's very hard to see the river today. It's been much drained. It is actually the River Kennet, a major river, but because it's running through the fens here, there's been so much drainage. The river has shrunk as it passes through this quaint little town of Moulton. And the bridge has been left stranded. You can't drive cars over the bridge. So they've laid a concrete base which actually goes underneath the bridge itself. So you can walk under the arches and see a medieval bridge. It was pretty wide for a pack horse bridge, but it was necessary to be able to pass through this village and cross the River Kennet, however wide it was at the time. And it would have been much wider. You can see it's 20 metres the span of the bridge. It's a beautiful little village here. And you wander through it, you find a place to park and wander down to the river. And it's not really a river anymore, it's a little stream through Moulton. But the pack horse bridge is fascinating, and it calls back to a time in the 15th century when trade was important. But there was no vehicles, there was no cars or lorries. There was pack horses. Now strictly this bridge is wide enough for a small cart, so there would actually have been carts later on in its life. But you could see here, beautiful little village. Certainly some signs that it's a very old village, but you don't quite expect when you reach this village green to see a 15th century bridge. And it's one of the best preserved pack horse bridges in the country. Has 4 arches, would have been built with wooden supports to create those pointy arches, and then laid over that wooden support and then a wooden support removed. But it stood for 6 centuries as a monument to the need to cross the river. And really the reason for this was trade, and particularly the wool trade. Picked this bridge today because the wool trade was really key to a lot of areas, and we're going to be looking in coming weeks at a few of the monasteries, and you'll see how much wealth the monasteries had. There was definitely a reason beyond annoyance over not being able to get divorced that King Henry VIII was so eager to take the lands of these monasteries, because with that wealth that came from trade came the need to move that product. And you could see there was enough money to go building bridges like this wherever a river got in the way. I find it fascinating when you go around these quaint villages and you see little hints of a very long lost past. Here you can see where they've laid down a concrete base, and you can drive right next to it. It's not a ford, there's a pipe underneath, so you really can drive right next to it, walk underneath it, walk all around it. It's English heritage, so it's well protected and maintained. But it's just a beautiful little arch. It looks very stranded here. Now the river's gone, the road's been built past it, whereas normally you see a new bridge next to an old bridge. Here you see a bridge standing on its own without a purpose anymore. And really, this calls back to an ancient time where we did substantially trade around the country. And these sort of bridges were instrumental. They were the motorways of their time. They allowed the distribution of product that earned the great wealth, particularly for the monasteries. And there's some very interesting monasteries near here. But really beautiful. And you can see it stood the test of time. When you walk across the bridge, you can see points where it's been repaired, where it's been strengthened. and obviously a new road surface has been laid down. But fundamentally, this is a very similar bridge to the bridge that traders would have walked across 600 years ago. And it would have been a very long trudge from Ely or Cambridge to the coast. But it's a very beautiful little village, fascinating little bridge, and I definitely recommend visiting it. You could see there where the bricks have been laid over the wooden arch before the wooden former was removed. And then above it is flint stones stuck together with mortar. And you can see the form of the buttress where it sticks out slightly to spread the load. So don't forget to subscribe, and there'll be another video in this playlist next week. Very soon we're going to be talking about the monasteries, the wealth of them before the dissolution, then some of the things that happened with the dissolution, how much people benefited from it, and we're going to see some of the beautiful monasteries there are around the UK.